Welcome to Based on a Book in our third episode covering this month's theme of love. Before we begin, let's play the introduction game. I'm Keri, equal parts stubborn and passionate for romance books.
I'm Lindsey, and I'm short, but don't call me shortcake.
And I'm Crystal. I'm just hateful.
As our listeners may already know, based on our hints on social media, for this episode we are covering my pick for our theme of love, which is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. And it's 2021 film adaptation starring Lucy Hale and Austin Stonewell. The Hating Game is a slow burn, enemies to lovers, workplace romantic comedy that is all about two coworkers who despise each other, or at least they think they do. Stuck in a constant battle of banter and petty games, their rivalry takes a turn after a promotion and a steamy elevator moment changes everything.
We'll be talking about that.
Yeah. The Hating Game was also Sally Thorne's debut novel, released in 2016, which is insane because it is extremely popular. If you are in the romance book community, you've probably heard of this book. Or even outside of the romance book community, you might have heard of this book. It's usually pointed at as something to read as like introduction to rom-coms. It was also a really big thing when people were promoting these like illustrated covers, reading like a little bit of dipping into the spicy romance. A lot of people are promoting this book, and she also has currently four length novels right now. So now I really want to get into my most highly anticipated ratings because I feel like this is the first time I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've ever done a rom-com. Like a real rom-com that's like, this is my genre right here. This is like my genre.
I think this is the first time we've covered anything spicy on the on the podcast too.
I think Idea of You was kind of like that, but it was more like leaning towards fiction a little bit more. But this was like pure romance genre, a little bit of spice in there as well. And this is the first time where I feel like I can't even get like a hint on what you guys are feeling about this book or movie. Like, I have no clue. I'm like kind of thinking, like, based on what I know, what you guys read and what I've given you recommendation wise before, but I have no idea what your ratings are, and I'm nervous. So I want to start with Lindsey. Lindsey.
Okay, all right. My rating. I'm gonna give this 4 serial killer eyes.
Oh my gosh! That just made my whole day. Okay.
I love a good enemies to lovers trope. That's my thing. I love it. This was so good. I really enjoyed this story.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay, Crystal.
I don't read contemporary romance, and I'm going to read a little bit about why, because I wrote this down so that I could say it correctly. Unlike fantasy and other genres, contemporary romance sets us up for disappointment. It is set so close to reality that we can convince ourselves it could be like that. There is no reason it couldn't be that way. And yet it isn't that way. It's not real. People are not like that. And my heart hurts because of it. Most of these books are supposed to be HEAs, but I'm always left feeling empty because it's too close to real, but so far from reality. And with that in mind, I had to think really hard about how to rate this book because, like, is it something that I enjoyed? Not really. I mean, but it wasn't a bad read. And so, like, for the genre, is this a good book? Like, I can totally see that. I can see why lots of people really, really loved this. And so, do I rate it based on how I feel or rate it based on how I feel it stacks up to other books in that genre?
Yeah.
And so, I was really torn. I think I kind of settled somewhere in the middle. I decided to give it 3 corporate team building retreats.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's totally understandable. I totally get that.
I'm just
Honestly,
such a cynic. It really like, and maybe it's because, you know, I've been heartbroken so many times by things that I thought were going to be romantic or things that I hoped were going to be sweet. But legitimately, these kind of things tend to just make me reflect on how shitty real life actually is rather than getting lost in the romance of it. I feel like it's easier for me to disconnect when it's very obviously not real because there's fairies or dragons or whatever,
yeah.
sprites or,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just
Yeah,
hard for me to
totally.
disconnect from this a little bit the way
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a reread for me. I read this a really long time ago whenever I was first getting into the romance genre. Probably like this was when I was reading like Penelope Ward. I was reading like a lot of contemporary romances, and I was honestly doing the opposite of what you say, Crystal, where I was having a lot of like life things happen and I needed like an escape into
Mhm.
something that was completely away from reality. That's, this doesn't actually happen in real life. People aren't this like, you know, guys aren't this great in real life or something like
Right.
that. So I needed this escape. And I turned to these romance books in this way. And I specifically remember listening to the audiobook during that time in my life and like using it as an escape for what was going on in my current life and relationship. And I always like stick to my original rating most of the time, and I give it 4 pining templements. And I do want to say that the narrator is really, really great in this
Mhm.
book. I don't know exactly how to pronounce her name. I don't want to butcher it. I want to say it's Katie Shore. So I apologize if I do butcher that name, but she was an excellent narrator,
Mhm.
really like drives the story in an incredible way and makes you fly through the book like you don't want to stop listening to the book, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I listened to the audiobook and I really, really enjoyed it in
Yeah.
large part due to the narration.
Yeah. She's a great narrator and I definitely recommend listening to it. But so now we're getting into spoilers. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't read or watched The Hating Game, consider this your official warning because we're about to unpack all the details from paintball wars to the magic that makes readers love Lucy and Josh's relationship. So, at least some. At least some.
I didn't hate it.
Maybe not all. Maybe not all. But at least some. So let the book versus movie showdown begin. And I want to note that also this movie, for some reason, we got a Christmas movie on our hands that was unexpected. Okay.
Yeah. That was
Because,
weird. I
yeah.
was like, wait, what? I thought this was like summertime. Like, I don't know. It was,
Yeah, the movie was released in December of 2021. So they kind of turned it, not saying that this has like the movie has a main theme of Christmas. There's just like Christmas things happening around. Like they're not going to Christmas events or anything.
right.
They're just like there's Christmas decorations around. Like she happens to be like in the office decorating a Christmas tree or something like
Right.
that. They're not, and it's snowing outside or something. It just has a general like winter setting going on. But it's not, I wouldn't call it a Christmas movie
No, I don't think so.
or anything like that. But I thought that was interesting. That was like a different element going on. But I kind of forgot about that because it was also a rewatch for me. And I was like, oh, hello. Okay. We could have covered this in December.
Right.
So starting off, we're thrown into the world of Bexley and Gammon, which is 2 publishing companies that were required to merge together. Originally, they were 2 different companies, Bexley Books and Gammon Publishing. And I don't remember exactly why they were required to merge together, just like because,
The market was sucking. They were both kind of
yeah,
failing. They
yeah,
decided to join forces.
yeah. So I believe in the movie, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the movie, uh, Gammon Publishing had to move into Bexley Books.
I think it
But
was the other
in
way around.
Yeah, one of them had to move in, but in the book, they went to a separate location and moved into a new building
Right.
so that it was, like, completely brand new place. But the other one in the movie, one company had to move into the other company's
Mhm.
building. But
I think is important though, because like when they talk about the merger and how the two companies are so diametrically opposed, like two completely different
yeah.
vibes as companies, that the new building that they move into, there was an argument about how to decorate and what was
Mhm.
going to be what. And in the book, the new building, the like executive office, the executive suite is mirrored like all over the place, very contemporary mirrored finish, which is like brought up in the book repeatedly because they use that as a tool for their hating game. But it's not in the movie, and so we kind of lose that. I was a
Yeah.
little disappointed because I liked the like
Mhm.
the strategy of using the mirrors when they were hating each other. I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of cute.
Yeah, I agree. I think the reason why it's changed in the movie because in the movie, like, well, in the book, Bexley Books is described as like the people of Bexley Books are described as like being hard, like they're the numbers people, like that's all they care about. In Gammon Publishing, they're described as the quote soft scribbles, and they're much more like
They're much more esoteric.
yeah, like they also have like this like artistic like vibe to them and things like that. And I think the reason why they didn't do what you said in the movie is because they were trying to show it
Yeah,
more in the movie of these two different groups of people
right.
from these two different publishing companies. So I think they did a pretty good job in the
Yeah,
movie.
it wasn't bad by any means, but it was
Yeah.
just kind of like I was really waiting for that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, definitely. So during the merging of these two companies, these two CEOs, Helen Pascal and Mr. Bexley, are forced to work together, and they come with two executive assistants, which are our two main characters, which are Lucy Hutton, which is Helen's executive assistant, and Joshua Templeman, which is Mr. Bexley's executive assistant. I don't know, does Mr. Bexley have a first name? Richard.
Richard,
Richard. I was like, "Oh my gosh, why can't I remember his first name?"
because
I'm
she
just calling
calls
him.
him little fat dick through the whole book.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is played by Lucy Hale and Austin Stonewell, which I think honestly was a really great casting in my
Yes.
opinion. I think Austin Stonewell did really well for Joshua, kind of like totally fit the perfect
Absolutely.
vibe for him. And so did Lucy. They had really great chemistry. Apparently, they were actually good friends before going into the movie, so they kind of just like played off of each other perfectly.
I think they were in another movie together before this too.
Yeah. So it worked really well. So Lucy's described, she's like super short, she's got short brown hair, super awkward, quirky. Joshua's like regimented and strict. Like the way that they're describing like their desks is super funny. Like he has like his pens like exact like he only has like 3 pens on his desk exactly like lined up. His post-its lined up exactly the same. Like nothing has changed. And well in the book Lucy describes how before she would have like all these like cute decorations all over her desk and everything, but then she noticed that Joshua, I almost called him by the actor's name, not Austin. Joshua. Joshua has she notices that he has like all of his stuff like super organized and well, and she actually starts like taking away all of her like cute little like knickknacks on her desk and stuff, and she doesn't like to keep them up because I mean she keeps some stuff, but she doesn't keep everything because she notices that all of his stuff is like super organized and like he barely
Right.
has anything on his desk. So she's kind of like embarrassed of it. But in the movie, it's not like that at all. She has all of her stuff everywhere. She has all her decorations. Like she
Mhm.
doesn't care. But so they essentially just sit opposite of each other. And as they're sitting across each other, they're rivals, just like their bosses, Helen and Richard. And this is also shown where, like, they're complete opposites, where Lucy is a big pushover and Joshua's like kind of like a hard ass. Like, he's known as being a hard ass within the whole company, and Lucy is known as being the girl that knows, like, she is the personable person, like she knows everyone, like she is bringing like a cake for like one of her coworkers because she remembers their birthday. She's like talking to her coworkers about a documentary that she recently watched, and like she's like that person. Like, Joshua's just like, he's got tunnel vision, and he's just like
People are
doing his
scared of
job.
him. He's kind of a
Yeah,
jerk.
he's like known as the guy who did all the layoffs whenever they first merged together. And Lucy also has like a lot of resentment about that too, because she lost one of her really close friends and like
Her
doesn't talk.
only close friend.
Yeah.
Because she might be a little more extroverted at work, but she's super introverted outside of work.
Yeah. So they're complete opposites. And right when you start off in the book, you're immediately having like this super funny, like, banter moments. And they're like playing like these petty games. And in my opinion, I think it's hilarious. Like, it is my humor. And I just like love that stuff. Like, she's immediately being like typing in her password, like, I hate Joshua forever. And like all this stuff, and like she's like making fun of him because she's like, everyone hates him because he doesn't even type out regards in his emails and just
I will say,
abbreviates it.
they really make the enemies part of enemies to lovers really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable. That was
Yeah.
really, because I'm with Lindsay on that one. That's like one of my all-time favorite tropes. Like, enemies to lovers, I'm probably gonna read that.
Yeah.
And they the way this is written is so good. It's so juicy. It's so like
Yeah.
it definitely had me like grinning, like, oh, they go fall in love. Like,
Yes. Like, I'm like giggling, kicking my feet right now. Like,
Yep.
this is hilarious. And I don't know, like the way it's written is just like the humor part of it is so funny to me.
Absolutely.
In the way that they portray the humor part of it on screen, I thought they did, like, a really good job of it, of their,
I
like, back and forth
Yes.
banter
I
and,
think the
like, playing
physical
off each
part,
other.
yeah, the
Yeah.
physical part in the movie was actually portrayed well, like, just them, like, cold shouldering each other, and, when he, like, blocks her going into places, or when they're playing the mirroring game where they're mimicking each other, like, they did that so well in the movie that it was easy, even though they had to cut, obviously, like, some chunks out, like, it was
Mhm.
really easy to see. They showed it so well
Mhm.
that
I
these
will
2 hated each
say
other.
I think one of my biggest complaints about the movie is that I felt like they took all of Lucy's quirkiness and gave it to all of the other characters.
Yes,
Yes.
I
Oh my gosh, totally
have
agree.
notes. Yeah, like, suddenly Lucy was every person at Gammon, Bexley, or whatever, except for Josh and Josh's boss. Like, those were the only 2 that didn't have the, like, quirky and awkward and goofy, and, like, everybody else was a Lucy.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I totally agree with that. Like, the Lucy in the book is way funnier, in my opinion,
Mhm.
way, way funnier, and, like, this, like, I like crazy cuckoo way, in like the best way,
Mhm.
in the book than in the movie. Like, if you want even more than what the movie is giving, read the book, because the book is
Absolutely.
giving way more moments and like crazier moments, and like Joshua loves every second of it.
Yeah,
And that's why I love this book so much.
I have stage 5 wackadoo
Yes.
written down for
And
her. Like,
it's like the type of wackadoo that you love.
yes.
It's not like the annoying, like, I'm just like, "Okay, girl, you need to chill out."
And it's
It's
almost,
like,
she embraces it in the book. She's like, "This is
yeah,
just how I am. This is the way it's gonna be." Like,
And
I'm gonna roll with
I
it.
just love that he loves every second of it.
Mhm.
He eats it up. Like, he's just like, when she's doing like something like her normal like self that she's doing, he's just like, so what are you gonna do now? Like, is so you're gonna do this now? Because he knows like everything that she's gonna do next
Yep.
because he knows her so well.
Yep.
It's just like, oh, like I just love like the chemistry between these two characters on page, and I think that they did what they could on screen. Like, you can't have this every single little part
Right.
in the book on screen, but I think they did such a good job. At least for chemistry and things like that. Like, I was like, the best that they could for this little rom-com real quick. I think they did a really great job for it.
Mhm.
So, Joshua is also very predictable where he wears the same shirts throughout the week. He's got white, off-white stripe, cream, pale yellow, mustard, ew, baby blue, robin's egg blue, dove gray, navy, and black. For some reason, that's completely changed in the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's like different colors of blue and black. I
Like,
don't
it starts
remember
from
exactly what
white
it is.
and it gets progressively darker blues throughout the week.
Yeah, which I get. Who wants to wear mustard, pale yellow? No
Right?
one.
But
No one
she
wants to wear that.
but she does say that, like, he looks good in every color. She's like, "How
Yeah.
does he do that? How does he look good in every color? Even
Mhm.
mustard." Ew.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, no, I no. I if someone's out here wearing mustard, that's and you look good in mustard, that's on a
I
whole new level.
I know people who look good in mustard, and honestly, it just kills me. It
That's
kills
crazy.
me. I'm
That's a
like, "How are you
talent.
doing that? How are you
Yeah.
doing that?"
Yeah. And so these two just like they thrive off the mind games, the office pranks. They're always playing like the staring game. They're like always making up games. They're like, and she, especially her, she's like, and he plays off of it. Like, she's like,
Mhm.
today we're playing the staring game or like the copying game, or like she's just like making up a game. And it's literally hilarious. And everyone at their job, like, they're creating a hostile work
They
environment at
really
this
are.
point, and where everyone knows about their mutual dislike for each other. All their coworkers are aware of it. They have a whole log at HR. Like, they're complaining to HR all the time for like different, like, whether it's maximum things going on or like petty complaints. And
And the
like they
one
have
HR
this,
lady is like, "You guys are my entire job."
yeah. She's sweating running back and forth from the office to their desks
Like,
every
people
day.
call her to come intervene when they see them walking down the hall together. Like,
Exactly.
something's about to go down. Like,
Yeah, and also, whenever it starts off, like, they're playing the staring game and all this stuff, and she's getting caught where she has this little fun thing that she does where she collects Smurfs, and
I'm so glad they kept that in the movie. I was afraid they were gonna cut
yeah,
that.
yeah. But also in the movie, this is a really weird thing, and this happens later, and we can just touch on it now because 'cause I'm never gonna bring it up again. She has a Smurf blog.
I know.
That's not in the book,
It's
by the
not,
way.
but I was really waiting for that to come up more than once, like,
Yeah,
for Josh to use that against her and be like, "I found
yeah,
your blog," or whatever, but he never
yeah.
once said it. I was waiting
So
for it.
in the book, she has like her big thing is that she collects Smurfs and she has like a whole collection of Smurfs in her house. And and also her parents always give her Smurf or used to give her Smurfs and stuff. And she like buys them at auctions, like they're collectibles and things like that. She has them all set up in like a big cabinet and everything. And in the movie, like, she does get a Smurf, but then later she's, like, at home. I think it's for Thanksgiving night because it's doing,
Mm.
like, the whole Christmas thing and stuff. Thanksgiving night, she's, like, on her blog, like, talking about Smurfs on, like, a Smurf blog, and I was like, "Okay, that's interesting and different."
To play
Okay.
out of Beastly.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, "Oh, we're doing this again, okay."
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so she like he knows about like her collecting Smurfs and kind of like, gives her crap for it and like laughs. And then whenever he like gets up, this is a really funny moment where she's like runs over to his desk, like trying to guess his password, and she's like flipping through like his planner, trying to take a picture of his planner because he has like a bunch of X's and like weird stuff like every single day marking his planner. She's like taking a picture of it. She hears him coming and she runs away and goes sits at her desk. Chair is still spinning, and he walks up and he's looking at it, and then he looks at her and he's like, "Were you just at my desk?" And this is so funny in the movie because it literally is still spinning. And he's like literally looking at her like, "Girl, what are you doing?" And she's like, "I saw a spider." And he's like, "What were you really doing at my desk?" She's like, "I said I saw a spider." And he's just like, and then just like the humor in this book is just gets me. I know I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it through this entire episode. So you're just going to have to hear me
Funny
out.
book. It's funny.
It is a funny book. Like I have a tab for, I think it's like page 16 or something. And it's just like, I mean, this might not be funny out of context, but just like really silly stuff where during that moment where she's like hurrying up, she's like throwing her phone down her pants to like hide it. And she's like, he's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Nothing. I'm just trying to see if it's gonna rain this afternoon. I bumped into your chair. Sorry." And she's like, he advances like floating Dracula. And I'm just like picturing that. Like he's just like literally
Yep.
like walking towards her. And it's like the menace is ruined by the sporting goods store bag loudly crinkling behind his leg. And it's just like, I don't know, just like the funny little comments that are made throughout the book like that just kill me.
It's so good.
Yeah. So after, we get introduced to all this like really funny moments, and then we immediately know their relationship dynamic, and it's just like it's right off the bat. Like if you like a fast pace, like if you want the enemies to lovers to immediately start, that's what this book is. It's going to be in this book if that's what you need to eventually get you into the story. It's a slow burn romance overall, but the story is moving. So at this point, eventually all the employees have to come together and a new position is up for grabs, and it is a chief operating position, and Josh and Lucy both want the job. And this becomes a competition between the both of them for the rest of the story, basically. And each of the CEOs, because Lucy's with Helen, Josh's with Richard, are pushing for their person on their job, and they have to like prep their own interviews for the job. And this, increases the rivalry between these two.
Well, and then they agree that like whoever gets it, the other person is going to have to quit so
Yeah,
they don't
because they
have to work
can't.
for that person.
Yeah, because they just can't even like imagine. They're like, whenever they start playing like these games back and forth, and it's like kind of low key, like passive aggressive. They're like, "Well, when I'm your boss, I'm gonna make you do this," and he's like, "Well, I'm your boss. I'm gonna make you wear a uniform that actually comes up to everyone's knees, but it really comes to your ankles because you're so short." And it's always about her height. At one point, I'm like, okay, this girl's
She's
main
5 foot
personality
tall.
trait is her height.
Yep.
And he always calls her shortcake. Always.
I am at least taller than her, so it's okay.
Without heels.
Yeah, without heels. Yeah, he always calls her shortcake, and there are times whenever their games back and forth go a little too far. And I love moments like this. Whenever, like the enemies to lovers, like the enemies are, they're fighting back and forth, and one of them goes a little too far, and then one of them gets like, they get emotional over the moment, and
And then
then
the other one is like, "Oh,
yeah,
no." Like,
yeah,
can't
and
handle that.
and then something breaks between them, and you get to see like, especially when, now I feel like a lot of romance books are written where you get the two perspectives in the relationship. And whenever you don't get the other person's perspective, you kind of need those little, especially in an enemies to
Yeah.
lovers, you kind of need like those little moments where they're breaking a little bit and kind of showing that they kind of do feel for that other person. Like you don't want
Absolutely.
them always to be like mean. So this is kind of like, there is a moment where he finds a blog that is of her, and this actually is not in the movie at all. Her parents are not even touched on. I think she has a conversation on the phone with her mom
Yeah.
for like a second, and then it's not touched on at all. But it's like a big deal that her family owns like a strawberry farm.
Because she's
And
strawberry shortcake.
yeah, she's strawberry shortcake and owns a strawberry farm, and she's very homesick, like being away from home. She's very close with her parents, and he's like, I found your like family's blog about your strawberry farm, and then I found this like picture of you when you were younger, like trying to like throw it in her face a little bit, like kind of like laughing about it, and shows her the picture and the blog that he found, and she gets really emotional over it because she's super homesick, and like he sees that she's like tearing up over this moment, and he kind of like feels a little bad about it. And you know, the games
He's
that
like,
they have
dial
back
it
and forth.
back.
Yeah. And I love those moments so much. I
Mhm.
love those little things that happen in these type of books.
So where
that I
are we?
go through.
Because there's another moment like this coming up, and I want to talk about it.
Okay.
Well, I don't
Wait,
know
what
where we are
moment
in the
are you?
story. I'm talking about the
I'm-
bar moment, but we got to get to the
Oh
bar
yeah,
part.
we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're pushing.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about because
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite moments too. And so she gets a sneak peek at the planner. This kind of like the events are like kind of weird lining up with the book and movie because a lot of things are happening in the book. Like we get more like little moments, but you know, the movie's obviously going to be focusing on like the bigger moments and stuff. But the planner part does happen in the movie as well. But one of their bigger arguments, he says the quote, "I'm going to work you so fucking hard."
When that was said
Okay.
in the book and in the movie, but in the book I was like, oh, I know where this is going, and I was
So,
like, oh,
and this is in the movie as well. And she goes to sleep that night, and it triggers her first sex dream of Joshua.
it was a
And
good dream.
yeah, it triggers her first, and she's like, she wakes up and she's like, "What the fuck?" Like she's
Yep.
like, "What the fuck was that?" Like I never even dreamed of this man like that.
This is also after he's made the comment about making her wear a uniform, and she's like, "Oh, I'll show you a uniform," and she's decided to wear this kind of short, revealing dress.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So the next day, she wakes up after she has this sex dream, and she's like, I like you said, Lindsay, she's like, I'm gonna wear this dress and I'm gonna like mess with his head now. And then on her way there in the book, she's kind of showing, she's like, I regret this immediately.
Yep.
I regret this. This is stupid. This is a bad idea.
I've definitely done that. Like,
She's like,
show
this is
up.
terrible.
Yep, I'm gonna make everyone's head turn, and then I
Yeah.
get 30 feet out my door, and I'm like, I'm gonna turn back around.
Yeah. She's like, why am I going to work in this dress? This is terrible. And then, so she gets to work in this like super short, sexy dress. And I'm pretty sure in the book she says she's wearing fishnets as well.
Yes,
I'm like, okay, we're
diamond
at work.
studded fishnets, or like,
like,
you know, like little sparkly studs around these fishnets.
yes.
Who wears fishnets to work ever to an
Yeah,
office?
please don't do that. Don't do
No.
that.
No.
So this is not in the book, but in the movie at this moment when she's walking out of the elevator to see him in this dress, she trips and falls and her bag flies out and her menstrual cup flies out and he sees it and he picks it up. He's like, "What is this little shot glass?" And she's like, "That's my menstrual cup." And he's like, "Oh," and gives it to her and starts sanitizing his hand. That part killed me.
That was good.
And honestly, like, it was again back to her humor, so similar in the book, because she was like, what? They're better for the environment.
Yes.
Like, she's just like not even gonna be embarrassed about it. And I was like, there you go, own it.
Yeah.
But I hate that she fell on the way in the movie, because like,
Well, she falls in the book too. I think her heel gets caught in the buckle of her coat or something, and she falls
Right.
in the book too. But it's
not like
different.
flat on her face fall. It's more like a stumble.
Yeah.
You know?
Doesn't he come and help her
Yeah.
in the book though too?
Yeah.
Like he in the movie he just like stares at her. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" But he sees her and he's like, sees her outfit. He's like, what, you got a hot date? Like, what is going on here? And he's like, kind of like a little shook by what she's wearing. And she starts talking. She's like, says that she does have a date for one. And then she starts talking about this. Like, she's like, well, I had a dream last night. Cause she's like, such like a weirdo, but like, in a, like when I keep saying that, I mean that in the best way possible. Like, she's just like, she just
Super
doesn't
awkward.
care. She's awkward.
socially awkward, and she's owning it.
Yeah,
love
she's
her.
socially awkward, and she just like says whatever she like is thinking to him, and he's like, okay, so
even
what
in
was
her
the stream about?
Well, but even in her inner monologue, when he's like, do you have a hot date? And she's like, yes. Like, we get to see her go, that was a mistake. Why did I do
Yeah,
that? Like,
yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
But then she's
And-
gonna like roll with it.
yeah, and then she's like, yeah, I had a sex dream, and he's like, what was it about? And she's like, just trying to talk about like, she's like, I think she said it was with a coworker.
A
coworker.
Yeah, and she doesn't
Mhm.
like go any more specific than that. And he's like kind of freaking out, but he in his head is thinking that he knows it's about him, and he thinks that she's lying about the date. Like, he
Which
knows that
she
she's lying.
is.
She is lying. But then she's like, okay, he knows I'm lying, because everything's a game with them. Everything is a
Exactly.
game. So she's like, I know he knows I'm lying, so I gotta go find a date. So she runs away, goes to another coworker. His name is Danny. Danny is a guy that she saw, like, met during a meeting or whatever. And she sees Danny, and Danny in the movie, he's an interesting guy.
I'm mad about this.
I'm so mad.
He's kind
Thank
of
you.
yeah, like, he's not what I wanted. Like, Danny in the book was like kind of cool. Like, he wasn't like,
He was a, to me, I took him as more like a grown-up frat boy. Does that make sense? Like, he was a guy's guy,
mhm.
but also like mature enough to be a grown-up and like date well and know the social cues and etiquette. And in the movie, he was just so freaking awkward,
Yeah.
like physically and socially awkward. Didn't pick up on any social cues at all.
Mhm.
It was just, I don't know, it was very off, which I think in the book, you know, Danny becomes this whole like, he's a valid option
Mhm.
because of him being actually a really great on paper guy, whereas Danny in the movie was I mean, almost set up to be like no one's first choice. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Whereas Danny in the book was definitely
He was a
top tier
contender.
material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a TV show called Not Dead Yet, and the main character writes obituaries for a paper, and she meets a guy in the show who also works for the paper. He writes the sports section of the paper. That guy, I can't think of his name right now, but that guy would be Danny in the book. And their relationship is very similar to Lucy and Danny in the book.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I'm gonna have to watch that show. I'll write it
Yeah.
down.
It's really good. I think it's on Hulu.
Not Dead Yet. I
Interesting.
like this. Taking notes.
Yep. Taking notes. So yeah, she convinces Danny to go on a date with her that night.
That night, right now.
Yeah, right now, because she's just like, I'm just so busy for the rest of my life, so this is the only day I'm available. And he's like, okay. And she's like wearing this like crazy outfit, so he's just like, yeah, sure.
And that's the other different. Like, Danny in the book was not like desperate, but interested.
Yeah,
Danny in the movie
they were
was
already
almost
flirting. Like, they
Yeah.
were already flirting at that point.
Danny in the movie was very almost desperate. Like, this is a date, right? So this is like a real
Yeah.
date. Like, it was very, I don't know. I feel like it made the love triangle aspect in the book way more believable and a little more understandable between the like confusion and jealousy that we see later.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, it just kind of fell flat.
Yeah, I totally agree. So at this point, it's like wrapping up to the end of the day. She's already scheduled a date with Danny, and she's like getting ready. It's like 7 p.m. is a
But
date.
they're playing that
And
new game where neither one of them can be the first one to leave,
yeah,
which means
yeah.
she's getting later and later and later for this date.
Yeah. And he's also like, "Where's your date at?" And she's like, "It's at 7 p.m. at this bar." He's like, "Oh, weird. I'm going to be there at that bar at 7 p.m." And she's like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll see you there." And in his head, he's like, "She doesn't have a date, so we're just going to be there together." And in her head, she's like, "I got to go find a date, found Danny, and I'm going to be there at 7 p.m. with
I'll
him."
show him.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're doing the game
It's
where
so
who's going to
dumb.
leave for it's
I
so
love
dumb,
it.
but so good.
It was good.
And so they're like, it's like hitting at the all the way at night at this point. And she's like, "All right, gotta go." And he's like, "All right, let's go." And they get in the elevator. And he's like, "Are you gonna like walk there or something?" Because at this point she like doesn't have her car or something.
It's in
It was in
the
the
shop.
shop.
Yeah.
It's
And
always in the
so
shop.
he's like having this moment. She's like, and they're bickering back and forth. And she's saying he's got his like serial killer eyes on. And in the movie, I thought this was funnier in the movie a little bit at this point because she was saying that she was going to strangle him and then he presses the emergency stop button. She's like, "Chill, I wasn't actually going to do that." And
Mhm.
then but in the book, she like he presses the emergency stop and she's like, I'm he's going to kill me right now. He's actually going to kill me at this moment."
Like, she's legit scared.
Yeah, she's actually scared. And then there's a steamy ass like the way that this hating game book is written, it's really as somebody who reads a lot of spicy romance, the spice is like very like it's not super crazy. There is total of one
But it's
sex scene,
hot.
but the tension
Yeah.
and just like the little like the brushing of like any body
Mhm.
part, like, it makes it's like melting my Kindle's melting in my hands as we
Cue the
speak.
sexy electronic music.
Yeah,
It's not like
literally.
the spice is, like, crazy, spicy, wild, kinky. It's not that. But
No.
the tension, it's hot. The scene itself is, like
Yes.
yeah, it's steamy. It's so steamy.
Yes. Yes, it's
Literally, the caption said, "Cue the sexy electronic music."
Like, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
But this elevator scene in the book and in the movie are just slightly different.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
In in the movie, Lucy initiates the kiss.
Yep.
In the book, Josh initiates the kiss, and
Mhm.
Lucy is just completely dumbfounded. Like, what the
Yes, she's, like,
fuck is happening?
flabbergasted. Yeah. She's, like, so shook that he literally lifts her I love this part because he lifts her up, and
Mhm.
he's like, "Visit me up here for a second."
Yes. Like, okay,
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I need to find a really tall man.
I'm telling you, I
He's
see, that's
5'7".
that was my thought because I am not a shorty short. I'm 5'7" too, right? So, like but, like, the idea of being, like, manhandled by a man like that is just like, I need someone to pick me up now. I need
He's
someone to pick me up now.
he said, "Visit me up here for a sec," and he said, "Yeet."
Yeah. Like, boop, popped her butt right up on the little bar inside the elevator, like
Like, that was literally you could have had the craziest, kinkiest thing in there. That was the spiciest thing I ever seen in my life.
yep.
That was insane. And, yeah, I didn't love like, I didn't love in the movie, in a general aspect, that Lucy I mean, I honestly I don't really care that much, to be honest, but the fact that she does take more charge in the movie in general
Mhm.
Yes.
than she does in the book.
Yeah, she's definitely more assertive.
I will
Yeah.
say, though, a few minutes after this in the movie, after the scene, she accuses him of hypnotizing her into
Yeah.
kissing him, and so
Yeah.
I was kinda like, "Okay." Like,
Yeah.
he was giving her those serial killer eyes, and that's what does it for, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. That whole scene was so good, and they have just, like, this moment, and you just gotta read it to feel the moment.
So
For
good.
real, it's so good. So, they get out of the elevator, And he's like, okay, let me drive you to this bar. Because in his head, he's thinking she don't got a date. He's like, I'm her date. And they're heading to the bar. And she's like, I got to go meet Danny. He's like, who the fuck is Danny?
Right. He was like, who? Danny
He's
who?
like, who the fuck is Danny? She's like, my date. I told you I had a date. And he's like, I thought you were lying. She's like, no, I actually have a date. And he's like, what the hell? In the movie, I don't remember how this plays out in the book, but in the movie, she's like, let me out right now. And she like jumps out of the car in the rain and goes to the bar that she's supposed to meet Danny at.
Kind of the same in the book.
Yeah.
They're driving down the road and he's like stopped at a light right outside the bar but not parked, and she
Mhm.
just jumps out.
Yeah. And so
And leaves her purse.
leaves her purse. So she goes and sees Danny there, and she has like she's meeting him, talking to him and stuff, and she has this like really big moment with him, and this like really hurt me emotionally.
Yep.
Where
This was
she
the
kind
realest moment in this
yeah.
book, and I had to stop for a minute.
Yeah, Danny tells her that she looks beautiful, and she kind of like doesn't like she has a moment where she's just like laughing it off, doesn't understand what he's saying, and she's like, I gotta go like to the bathroom real quick and like freshen up.
Freshen
And
up.
when she goes away, she runs into Joshua because he's like, you forgot your purse in the car, and like is trying to talk to her because she like ran out the car, and
And
she's
he's
like,
trying to apologize. He
yeah,
legit is like, that was wrong of me. I shouldn't have done that.
yeah.
Like,
And she is like she confronts him and she's like, a man just told me I'm beautiful and I'm freaking out because of you, like
because I
because
feel
of
like he might be playing a game with me.
yeah, like because I feel like someone's like you said, playing games with me because of like what's been going on with us, and I don't believe him basically. And like that was so real.
In the book, this is so well done. In the
Mhm.
book, it was such an emotional moment, because I think every woman has had that moment of like, is he just saying that to get what he wants, or
Mhm.
is he being honest with, or does he really think I'm beautiful? Every woman has had that moment.
Mhm.
And so like reading it in this book and then seeing Josh's reaction of just being like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I've hurt her that deeply." It like I had to stop reading for a minute and gather myself. In the movie, this didn't hit quite the same. It didn't have that oomph, because to me, this scene in the book was so pivotal. It was such a shift in their relationship, in the way Josh approached her,
Mhm.
that it was, I don't know, I just feel like this was the shift in the book, the whole tone shift in the book for Josh, and we don't see that really in the movie as deeply. I felt, of all the scenes that they could have spent a little more time on, I feel like this should have been the one.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. It definitely didn't hit as hard as it could have. So she kind of like comes back from brushing up in the bathroom, and then her and Danny like kind of have like these moments where they connect and they relate to each other. Like his family has a farm, and her family has a farm, and they just like have a whole night together. So next day she goes to work, and or next morning, she gets roses at her
Mhm.
house with a note saying, "You're always beautiful." And she thinks they're from Danny.
Everybody, even
Guess
reading the
what?
book,
They're not.
no, we all knew. Even reading the book, we all knew that they ain't for
Yeah.
Danny.
Well, it was funny in the movie. She like does a little text to Danny. She's like, "Thanks for the roses." And in the movie, for some reason, he's talking about goats parkouring or something.
Because
And he
it's
said,
family's farm. They
"Yeah,
have goats.
yeah." And so he sends like a little meme of a parkouring goat
Yep.
as a response. And I was like, "Are you kidding me right
Well,
now?"
she didn't say thanks for the roses. She said thank you, and then 3 rose emojis.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So,
I don't know. I was upset. I was
yeah.
upset. So she goes to work the next day, and Joshua's looking a little disheveled. he's had a night. And in the book, like Joshua is like expressing like his concerns that she's gonna go to. He's like, it's okay if you need to go to HR because of this kiss in the elevator and all this stuff. Because the rules at HR is like you can't be having like relationships with
And
like
he's
your
legit
coworkers.
trying to apologize.
Yeah, 100% trying to apologize, trying to
She's basically like, oh, so this is all about you just making sure you're not in trouble.
yeah.
Like, she throws it back at him, and he's like, no, I obviously am
Mm-hmm.
concerned about you being upset. And she's like, because you want to save your job.
Yeah, yeah. And after this, they kind of like agree to forget that they had this moment in the elevator. So then the team, there's like another, they go head, Joshua and Lucy kind of go head to head because their team needs to go do like a team building exercise. And they decide to go with Joshua's idea, which is paintballing.
I would have not, like, don't get me wrong, as much as I would love to shoot my coworkers, I'm just,
Paintballing hurts. I don't know if anyone's
it's
paintballed,
so
but it's so
painful.
painful. It
No.
hurts so bad.
That's the
Uh,
thing, is like my coworkers would also shoot me, and I'm not okay with that. Just
I was
get
like, "Oh my gosh, this is
ass.
horrible."
The one time I went paintballing, I wasn't even playing, and I got shot in the temple with a
Oh my
paintball.
Oh my
god.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
just a hard
remember
pass.
I was covered like head to toe except one spot, and it was right here on my neck, like in the back of my neck, and that's where I was shot at, was the back of my neck. I was like, "Okay, I'm done. You're
Yep.
all done and I'm done. I'm going home." I like sat on the bus, like arms crossed. Wait, I'm waiting till
Yeah.
everybody's done.
It's so painful. It's so much physical activity too. Like running
Yeah,
around. Like, no.
yeah. So they all go paintballing for this team building exercise, and honestly, this entire sequence to me is so hilarious. Like, it just keeps being so freaking funny. Why
And
is it so funny?
it's so much better in the book than in the movie.
One
Yes.
thousand percent. Like in the book, like every single thing, like every little moment, like I know I keep trying. This episode's gonna be so long. Oh my god, oh my god. Okay, so every single moment, because I'm just like, I'm fangirling right now because I'm just excited to talk about this stuff. But like even the little moments in the book where they're like collecting the money as everyone's getting on the bus, and he's like, people are like rushing in to get on the bus, and she's like kind of getting squished against the bus because she's like so small, and he's like, don't like squish like shortcake or whatever, and he's like helping like pull her out, but he still doesn't like her. Like he's
Right.
still like, well, like quote, doesn't like her, but we all know he likes her.
Right.
But
And he's looking out for her hardcore.
always, always.
Always. Whether it's on the bus or during the actual paintball, he is always looking out for her.
And Danny's like, we're gonna be on the same team, right? And Joshua's like, the teams have already been made, and she's on my team. And I'm
Yep.
like, I can't. I can't. It's so good. It's so good. And like he's just like, yeah, she's on my team. And they're like, okay, so, and she's like looking through the list of when like the teams switch up, and like Joshua put her on his team like every single time.
Every
Didn't even
single
try
round.
to hide it,
Yeah,
like,
like
every time.
and like Danny like just walks by. He's like on the other side of the field, and like Joshua just like shoots him with the paintball because he's just like pissed off that he's there. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so at this point, while they're paintballing, um, Lucy's like, everyone's getting real dramatic with the paintball. I think this is me. I'm this guy where he gets shot with the paintball. He's laying on the ground. He's like, go save her. And he's like, and then he's like, I'm going to go get cake. And
Yep.
that's me. That's going to be me.
Yep. I'd be like, they got Diet Coke in there? I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. So at this point, Lucy is like looking a little rough for some reason. Like she's got, like,
She's
she's
starting to
sweating.
sweat.
Yeah, she's getting a little nauseous. And so Josh is like, you're looking a little rough. Like, you look like you need to go home,
And
and we
he,
need to
even on
stop
the
paintballing.
bus, he was like, on the way there, he was like, he had touched her and he was like, you feel a little warm. And she was like, don't
Yeah.
touch me. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so right before, paintball's over, and they have like this moment where she like, it's so dramatic where she like jumps in front of him to block the paintballs and he like jumps in front of her. And it's like so extra and it's hilarious.
And it was not done properly in the movie.
Not
No,
at
it
all.
wasn't. Like this whole paintball scene is way better in the book. Read it in the book.
I never
It's
thought.
so, so good.
Did you ever think you were going to say that sentence? The whole paintball scene was better in the book.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
It was.
So she's throwing up in the bathroom and she's like, everyone just needs to go, like, just leave me here. That'd be me. Just leave me here to die.
Go on without
I
me.
can't be on a school bus on the way home throwing up. So,
No.
but Josh is like takes care. He's like, just come on, let's get on the bus and all this stuff. He's like basically like having her lean against him. Okay, and then here we go. We got the caretaking trope, everyone. One of the best tropes in romance history.
This makes me so angry.
Why?
Because it's not even close to real life. There's not a man out there that does this shit.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's facts.
And I
That's
want there to
facts.
be. I want there to be. Everyone wants someone that will take care of them in these vulnerable moments, their most weakened, vulnerable state. And it never fucking happens.
Yeah.
So I get real mad about it. So I was
Yeah.
definitely like, I will say though, it was super romantical and I enjoyed this part in the book.
Yeah. This part, like a caretaking trope in a romance book, will get me every
Every time.
freaking time. Like, I will fall in love with you. I will
Yep.
fall in love with you.
Absolutely.
And like,
That's
either
when I knew
side.
Rysand was the good guy in ACOTAR. Spoilers,
Yep.
sorry. But
Yeah.
that's when I knew when they were
Yep.
under the mountain and she's all busted to hell after fighting the worm and he's all like, I guess I can fix you up. And that like I was just like, damn it, he's the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah. And so she's like super sick, has the flu, she's throwing up, and this is him. In the movie, she like throws up on him, like on his shirt, and that doesn't happen in the book. But he takes her home and like all the way inside her apartment, stays in her apartment. She's like sick, delirious. She's like having conversations with him while she's like literally completely out of it. And he's just so obsessed with her. He's so
He's
obsessed with her.
changing her clothes.
Changing her clothes, changing her sheets. And he's like, it was like just like little moments. He's like taking her temperature. He went out to the store, got a thermometer, came back, taking her temperature, and she's like talking to him. He's like, don't. He's like, yep, He's like, don't chew on the thermometer. Yep, yeah, I
Yep.
know. Yep. And he's like, oh, temperature's 102. Time to lay back down. Here's your medicine. I'll be right back with all the other stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, literally, I'm in love. I'm
And
in
then
love.
calls in a house call. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
She's so sick to the point that Josh brings reinforcements and she wakes up and there's a doctor there checking on her, and it's actually Josh's brother who's a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So helps her get better. And okay, so in the movie, this is like he's just like checking on her, and she's like, "Oh, you're kind of cute," blah blah blah. But in the book, this is way more like romantic, like things.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joshua grabs her and is like holding her, like cradling her,
Yep.
while because she's like really like super sick,
She's
high fever.
sick.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like 100, like they pretty sure they said that 104 or
105,
something. Yeah,
105.6 is
yeah,
what it got up to. And that's why he called the doctor. Because he was like, we want to
yeah,
keep you under 104.
yeah,
But it got over that, so he called the doctor.
yeah. So he's like cradling her while they're like while he's checking her and all this stuff, like holding her.
And she's
And
leaning into him and she's like
yeah,
saying, like, I hate you.
yeah, yeah. And he like is like holding even tighter,
He's
like
like, I know
whenever she
short
tries to
take.
move. Yes. And his brother is like talking to him, and you can tell there's a lot of tension between him and his brother. Like
Yeah.
the relationship's not great. And so Joshua gets up whenever everything's done and like kind of walks his brother out, and Lucy kind of overhears that like his brother's like being
We
like,
need your RSVP, bro. Are you coming or
we're
not?
waiting for your RSVP for my wedding. Like, are you coming? What's going on? And then, eventually she can't hear him anymore and he leaves. So next morning, Lucy's finally kind of like recovering from being sick, and she's so annoying. She makes me so angry. So she's thanking him, but then asking him to not use her being sick against her in the interviews for the position she's about to have. So he was just there cleaning up her puke, cleaning up her house, and like he was even saying that he's like kind of like looking, this is kind of shown in the movie too, he's like looking around her house and like looking at all of her stuff and things like that. She's like, don't use this against me in my interviews. Like, he's here like cleaning up all your stuff, changing your sheets, like changing your clothes, all these things,
All
feeding you,
weekend.
making all weekend. And this is the first thing you say to him.
But this goes back to the trust issues that they've created with each other with all these stupid games.
The games.
Yep.
She just doesn't like being vulnerable. She doesn't like being vulnerable with him, and it's really hard for her to be vulnerable with him. Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah. So, we're going to grow. We're going to grow. We're going to get there.
Right, but like he leaves and she like, we even hear her inner monologue is all like, I should have gone after him. I should have told him to stay. I should apologize, Yeah.
She's like upset with herself. And so Danny comes to pick her up, and I'm like, dude, this man just did all this stuff. Screw Danny. Danny needs to go. But Danny comes to pick her up. In the movie, he doesn't come pick her up. He like shows up at her job because Danny actually left and went and got like a new job, or like he did. He's doing like his own freelance. Yeah. But so Danny comes pick her up, and he brings her flowers, and she notices it's not roses, it's different flowers. And so brings her all the way to work and all the way to her desk. And Danny knows something's going on with Joshua because Joshua's been real rude to him, all this stuff.
Super possessive during paintball, super possessive about when she was sick. Even Danny was like, do you need help? And he was like, I got it. Like,
he kept trying to call Lucy's phone, and Josh kept answering.
Yeah, exactly. And so Danny goes all the way to the desk, and there is a rose sitting on the desk from Joshua. And she's over here walking in with Danny.
And a bunch of daisies. Crappy daisies.
How dare you? I don't remember.
I do like daisies.
I don't remember this in the book, but in the movie, she comes in and there is also strawberry juice because she says how much strawberry juice,
which I think is weird because in the book she was like, my mom always gave me lemonade when I was sick to take my medicine, and so it was lemonade. I don't know why they changed it to strawberry juice in the movie. Like, they just haven't really brought up the whole strawberry farm thing as much in the movie.
I
think so.
Maybe just to like emphasize the strawberry shortcake thing. I guess. I don't really know. So basically at this moment, it's like Josh and Danny like butting heads and all this stuff at this moment. And Josh is like pissed. And like Lucy's like kind of trying to fix it. She's trying to make amends with Josh for like what she said, and she's like even being like, I'll like do anything, like I'll even like be your date at this wedding. And he's like, how do you know about this wedding? He's like, I overheard like your brother talking about it. And she's like, you can even be like, drink whatever you want, and I'll even clean up your vomit because you cleaned up mine. And so she's like trying to like make up for it. And then they have
the closet scene. Closet scene.
Then they have another little tension-filled scene where
nothing happens, but it's so hot.
Yes, like, it is so hot. Like she like pulls him into a closet because she's just so frustrated because he's not listening, and she pulls him into a closet at work.
Right, but they had heard someone coming down the hall, and she wanted to be able to have this conversation, so she was like, get in here, and like
so takes him into a closet and is like telling him like to like listen to her and stuff. And like I cannot physically express the tension and the chemistry in this scene and the things that this man says. He says, she's like, I want you to put your hands on me. And he goes, put them on yourself. Bitch, what? What did you just say to me?
I was over here like, okay.
She
Yes,
said,
please.
I grabbed his hand and put it on my ass. Bitch.
Damn.
Are you
Yes.
kidding me? I'm actually gonna lose my freaking mind. And they like don't even do anything. Like they like
No.
literally they don't even do anything. And he's just like barely even like brushing lips at this point. And I'm actually going to pass out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think at this point in the book, this is not in the movie, but in the book, she kind of hints at that she just wants them to have like this one hookup and then it'll like break the tension between them and then it'll be good.
Right. She's like, let's
Yeah.
just one time, we'll call it
Yeah.
they name the game. It's a new game they're gonna play or
Yeah.
whatever.
And this happens, this is brought up a little bit later in the movie, but in the book, that's when that happens. And I love this about Joshua. Okay. This is what I love about Joshua is that he's like, I know your game and I know you. I'll play this game with you because that's not what's actually going to happen here. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like you can say that all you want. And he's like, fine. You want to play this game that we're just going to hook up? Then I'll do you one better. I want you to go on that date with Danny
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to kiss him and tell me if it's better than me. If it's not better than me, then I want you to come to me after.
Mm-hmm.
Because you
Mm-hmm.
always be wanting the nice guys and you keep saying that you want a nice guy. So if he's better than me, then I want you to go away with Danny. But if he's not, then you can come to me.
And I'm
And she's
not
like,
gonna lay a hand on you until
nope,
you tell me that nobody kisses me like I do.
nope. So Danny
Oh.
and Lucy go on this date. And it sucks.
Yep.
Trashed.
Actually, it was a good date. Like she talks about it was like in the book, it was an okay date. Like it was nice. It was pleasant.
I have the movie one stuck in my head at this
The
point
movie
because
was a trash date.
Oh,
yeah.
garbage.
Well, in both the book and the movie, he gives his business card to her, and she even says that someone next to her like looks at him like he's like a
Like a
total
business
jerk
card. Yeah.
because he's like trying to make connections because he's a freelance person now.
Right.
So they have a kiss. Chemistry is garbage,
But
and so
even Danny realizes that.
mhm.
In the movie,
In
he
the
doesn't seem
book,
in the book, he realizes it.
Mhm.
He's
yeah.
like, I think we should just be friends. And she's like, yeah, I think so too.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's that.
So, and also at this point, I think in the book, this is not the same in the movie. I don't remember in the movie how she got Josh's address, but in the book, she has
He gave it
Josh.
to her. He texted it
Okay.
to her.
Okay. In the book, Lucy has Joshua's address because they already make plans to be the going to the wedding together.
She's
Mhm.
supposed to pick him up for the
Yeah,
wedding.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I love this part in the book because she's like, I have this address. She's like, her crazy's coming out. She's like,
Yes.
I have this address. And like, I don't know what to do. She's like pacing her house. She's like, I have this address.
This is when I wrote the stage 5 wackadoo note.
Yeah.
Because, like,
There. Okay, so I have a quote. I know. Oh my god, we're running over so much, but I just don't care. I don't care because honestly, this quote is too good. Okay, she's like running around with this address, and she's like, I call the GPS woman the worst names I can think of. I beg her to stop, but she doesn't. Like a total bitch, she directs me to Josh's apartment building, and she's just like She's like has the address and she goes to his apartment and she's just pacing around the
she's like, I'm
apartment
gonna
and
do
everything.
one lap around the building and then I'm
Yeah,
gonna leave.
yeah.
Like,
And she's just like doing that, and Joshua comes out, like walks out like he's gonna go find her because he hasn't heard from her regarding whether the kiss was good or not. And then she's like sees him and she's like, I'm not, she says something like
she
she's
says,
like,
I'm
I'm
stalking you.
stalking you. And then she's like saying it. She's like, it sounds like a threat. And he just like, he loves her crazy. And I think that's why I love it so much. And she goes inside of his apartment and she is just like, I love this part so much. She's just like going through all of his stuff. Like just
Yeah.
like going through
She's
everything.
opening drawers and
Like,
cabinets
yeah,
and like,
and he loves it. He loves it, which
But
is amazing.
also, when she goes into the apartment, she notices that he was just in the middle of watching TV when he was just like, "Oh my god, I've got to know where she is," and he just like left the apartment
Yep.
in the
Yeah.
middle of what he was doing to go find her.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
He
like
had
that part.
it was like ER was still on or something.
Mhm.
And she's just like going through all of his things and she like grabs onto one of like the like toy cars that he has. Like it was like
Matchbox.
yeah, the Matchbox car that he had sitting on the shelf and she's just like holding on to it for like dear life. And she's just like walking around, just like crazy eyes on, like looking at everything and taking everything in. And at this point in the movie, this doesn't feel so like dramatic. And I really wish it did feel like I wanted
Like
her
the crazy
crazy
was there.
eyes. Yeah, I
I
wanted more
did.
crazy.
Yeah, Lucy's crazy is not nearly as apparent in the movie as it is in the book.
Yeah.
And like specifically everybody talks about how like Lucy explodes when things don't go her way or when they don't work out the way she thought they would.
Mhm.
We never see that happen in the
Yeah.
movie. It's kind of sad. I was waiting
Yeah.
for it. Like
Yeah. And his room is also robin's egg blue
in the
as
movie
well.
it's green cuz she
Yeah.
has green eyes.
Yeah. 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 So
She's like, "Is this your favorite color?"
he's
Like
like so in the movie, this is where she reveals, like I said before, that she wants to have just like a night together. And he gets kind of pissed off and he kicks her out. This does not happen in the book
No,
at all.
now he mentions in the book that he's like, "I don't want you for just a night, Lucy." Like
Yeah.
he's kind of
Yeah. But
like
he is much more patient about the entire
yes.
situation. He's like, I know this game and we're just going to play this out or whatever. He even says like this whole story about how he used to like, he was able to like uh be like super patient, like eating whenever he was a kid he would like eat
With the
this
Easter eggs.
with this like piece of chocolate, like his brother would like gorge himself on like this piece of chocolate and he was able to like keep it for so long and like slowly eat it for like a long period of time or something like that. And he uses that in reference to Lucy, like he's like, I'll like make this last forever kind of thing, like I'm not just gonna do this right away. And but in the book this is becomes like a big misunderstanding to the point that they like don't really talk and stuff like that and they immediately like she gets kicked out of his apartment basically. And that doesn't happen in the book. So next day Lucy is showing like a presentation to Helen because we're having this interview for this position and she's working that happens in the movie as well.
And Josh is not at work.
Yeah, Josh is not at work. And she's like very disturbed by it. Like she hates it. Like in the book, she literally hates it so much that she like is desperate to go back to his house. And she's just like, where like she really wants to go back to his apartment and he's like at the gym or something.
She sends him flowers cuz she's figured out that
Yeah.
the roses were from him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then she decides to send him flowers.
Mhm. Yeah, and then she realizes that he's at the gym at one point, and she's like, wants to go to his house, and he's like, "Give me an hour or whatever," and she's like, "I'm on my way right now." And she's like trying to race him there, and she's like laughing crazily, like while she's like driving there.
And then she gets there, she's like, "I win!"
Yeah.
Like, because everything's a game. Everything is a
Yes.
competition of these two.
Yes. And she like jumps on him and he's just like walking around like doing stuff and she's just holding on to him the whole time. Like little things like that I'm just like
Hold on
obsessed
tight,
Once
with.
spider
again,
monkey.
like I'm 43 years old and single, but if there's like some 6'5", handsome single man out there that wants to carry me around like that, like I'm available.
We're here for
Saying.
it. So Josh reveals that he's also like his whole family, he's got like a family of doctors and he was going to be a doctor but couldn't because he got sick seeing someone open on the table and he just couldn't be a doctor.
The day at the morgue ruined it.
Yeah, yeah. So there's just like there's a lot of resentment from his father, pressure from his family that he feels like he just like couldn't live up to. That's kind of like why there's a lot of tension in regards to seeing his family, talking to his family. And like she sees that there's like a lot of like medical books at his apartment and stuff like that. So like she sees him again. There's just like so much sexual tension. I highlighted this for some reason. This phrase, I thought it was said like a million times. I thought the terms nipples pinched was said like 100 times, and I went and
Yeah.
searched it. It was only said twice. I
It
was like,
was
"There's no way." I swear I read that 100 times. I swear I kept reading that her nipples pinched like 100 times.
just
Just
twice,
saying,
but
it was
still,
only twice.
it was once too many.
I was about to say that. It was one time too many. So there is a moment where at this point in the book that Lucy overhears a conversation with Mr. Bexley where Josh says he'll have no problem beating her, but this actually happens way later in the movie, and they kind of
Mhm.
have like another moment where they're like fighting again.
Yeah,
But
this next kind of sequence of events is out of order in the movie.
yeah, yeah,
But I think
definitely.
it was still kind of okay. It
Yeah.
worked.
So now we're getting to wedding time because at this point in the movie they had like a misunderstanding, and then he shows up to her house, into her apartment. She's like decorating a Christmas tree because it's Christmas time. It shows up to her apartment. And he's like, "Remember when you said that you're gonna be my wedding date? Yeah, we're gonna do that right now." Which is like my worst freaking nightmare. Like, don't show up to my house at the last minute and say I have to be a wedding date for a whole weekend.
Yeah, no. I
I
don't
don't
like
have a
being
dress.
rushed. I'm
Yeah,
a planner. Like,
I gotta
no.
pack in
Yeah.
like 2 seconds, and you're waiting outside in the car. Like, I got heartburn right now just thinking about it.
Heard.
So, and so Josh makes her go to the wedding as his date to make up for her being sick. And we get to this, and he's like really stressed about it, you know. And she's thinking maybe he's stressed about like seeing his family, knowing the whole situation, but she don't know everything. And
Mm-mm.
see that going into it.
But it was so, and in the book, it starts to be obvious. I think I figured it out pretty quickly.
Yeah, totally.
The fact that she didn't figure it out, I just wanted to shake her.
I knew when the brother
Yeah.
was at her house when she was sick and he was like, "When are you gonna RSVP to the wedding?" I was like, "Oh, there's something wrong with the wedding. I
Yep.
already know."
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So classic one bed trope here. Going
Right.
to the wedding. There's only one room available, not two. So you got to share a bed. We love to see it. We love to see
That's
it.
a good one. That's a
Yep.
good one.
So he does reveal as they're like getting ready that he had an ex, like the last person he dated. Like he's kind of like slowly like revealing like his past. And the last ex that he had is like the complete opposite of Lucy. And that kind of like, you know, brings a little bit of like insecurities to her and stuff. And she's just like, oh, okay. And like,
Okay. I also want to bring up that this Lucy continues to tell him how hot he is and how amazing his body is and how sexy he is, and she just wants to touch him. And he talks about how like his ex seemed to really only like him for his body and how he's a little sensitive about that
mm-hmm,
because like she basically his ex was basically like, your personality just isn't right for me, I don't like your personality at all, but like let's keep being together kind of thing. And how it just he really is touchy about that, and she was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know, I will make an effort to, you know, not focus on your body so much, and then continues to focus on his body for the entire rest of the book and movie.
mm-hmm.
I'm like, girl, you failed. It's the one insecurity he mentions, the one in the
Yeah,
whole book, and you were all like, "I will respect that," and then you absolutely did not.
And what
totally.
that's when she sent him the flowers, and because she keeps the Matchbox car from his house or his apartment, and she sends the flowers and she says, "I love or I like you for more than just your body. I also like you
Right,
for your Matchbox cars or something."
right.
Yeah, yeah,
But then continues to just be like, "Let me touch you. I
yeah,
just want to like, I just want to
yeah,
touch that body."
yeah,
Like,
totally.
okay, like, don't get me wrong, me too, but also back off. Like,
Yeah. So in the movie, he's like so it's like the first night they have to go to like a rehearsal dinner, and he's like, we have 30 minutes to get ready. Second nightmare number 2.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Yeah, he says, we have
30.
30 minutes to get ready. Do you want the first shower? And I'm like, do you think I'm going to be able to like
To
shower and
shower?
be ready in 30 minutes?
So I got to
To
shower.
meet your family for the
Yeah.
first time. Like,
So you made me pack last minute, get a wedding outfit last minute, and now I got to shower in 30 minutes? What do you think this is?
It's never going to happen.
You think
it was
this
never
is
going to
ready
happen.
in 30 minutes? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
So in the movie, they literally have this was good in the movie.
This was good in the movie.
So good in the movie. So they have like, he comes out of the shower and she's getting ready, and he has a towel on, and he's like, we got 30 minutes to go. I'm like, how do we still have 30 minutes when both of you guys had a shower and you're getting ready? But okay. And she rips that towel off and they have sex right there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And she said, put your body on me or something, or put your weight on me.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, I'll crush you. And she was like, then I'll die happy.
Yeah. Then I'll die happy.
She was trying to recreate the dream.
Facts.
Yep.
But that does not happen in the book. It does not. They actually, so he leaves in the book, he leaves and like helps his mom with something in regards to the wedding.
Bringing the arrangements.
Yeah. And so she like falls asleep in the room. And this actually like really touched me. Is it's just like something really small, but she wakes up and she sees it's like 12 in the afternoon the next day, and she's like, they both slept in. And she's like looking at him and they're like, oh my gosh, we both slept in. And she wakes him up. She's like, it's 12 in the afternoon the next day, and he's shocked that they both slept in. It's like, you were both so comfortable, like you finally reached this extreme like comfortable part with each other that you could like finally relax and just like take a deep breath and just sleep, and like your body needed it because you were like could do that with each other. And it was just like a little tiny moment that you could just like tell it was like a little thing written in there. I really,
it was really
that.
wonderful.
So they go to this wedding, and this is honestly a worst nightmare to me, where everyone's talking about something and you're the only person that does not know what everybody's talking about. And so she's at this wedding and everyone's kind of like looking at Joshua like they're like, oh, is he okay? Like, is everything okay? Like, not necessarily looking at him like it's a bad thing, like more like sympathizing with him kind of thing.
Waiting to see if he's gonna say something or
Yeah. So, his brother marries a woman named Mindy, and we find out that Joshua used to date Mindy. And she finds out through...
Not used to date. They were in a relationship.
Oh, yeah. They were in like a full-blown... That was like the ex that he was talking about before. Like... And
they were together for a year, a whole year.
Yeah, she even asked him, she's like, is there any like weird thing I need to know about before going in so I don't like bring it up or something, like anything crazy? And he's like, no.
And then like repeatedly throughout in the book, like throughout the evening, she's like, why is everyone staring at you?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? Please tell me what's happening.
Yeah.
Like,
but not only that, they're sitting on the front row during the wedding before she even finds all of this out. She's sitting next to his mom, and they're both just crying at this wedding and how beautiful the bride is. Lucy doesn't even know anybody there, and she is crying.
Yep.
And then she's like, oh, that's your ex-girlfriend. Okay.
I would, the things, oh my God, the things I can't even express. Lucy's better than me because honestly, the things I would be doing, not good. I'll tell you that. Not good. It would not make me look good.
I think I could calmly walk out, but I would be gone.
I'd be like, you never see me again.
Pretty much.
Like literally, you would literally never see me again whatsoever. Everyone's in Block City at that point.
For
the
real.
Mom, the dad, the random cousin in the back. Like you literally, no one, you'll never see me again.
Yep.
So when Lucy finds out in the book, also she meets like his mom's great. His dad, absolutely terrible, sucks. Because he, loves the son that became a doctor, doesn't love Joshua because he didn't become a doctor. Thinks that Joshua just gets coffee for his boss, basically.
Lick stamps and gets coffee.
Yeah. So when
Who
Lucy
licks stamps anymore?
Nobody. So when Lucy finds out, I'm just kidding, maybe somebody does, I really don't know.
Nobody
But
does. They're self-adhesive. Don't lick those.
yeah. When Lucy finds out in the book, it's a much bigger deal than it is in the movie. In the movie, it's
She's like, wow, that must have been really hard for you.
yeah.
I can understand why that was upsetting.
Mhm.
Are you okay? Are we still going to do this together? Okay, let's go back in. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
What?
In the movie, it's
What?
probably like healthier, maybe, but in the book, I feel it's a little more realistic.
For real.
Like, I would be so livid if this happened to me.
And even like his mom is like, don't be too mad at him, Lucy. Like, he really does. I think he cares for you a lot more than you think.
I'd be like, sorry, shut up.
Yeah, I would be like, go away. This is between me and your son. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would not be
Yeah.
pretty.
So in the book, she kind of like threatens to leave,
She
and
buys a bus ticket.
yeah,
She's
she's like
like,
ready to go. She's like, I'm not dealing with this. No. And they kind of have like this moment, having like this heart to heart moment.
And
And
she
this
calls
is,
Danny too.
yeah, yeah. She calls Danny,
now,
like,
because Danny's left a ton of messages. He's helping her with this whole proposal
yeah,
project she's got.
yeah. Yeah,
But
because,
Josh doesn't know that Danny is helping her with the proposal project because that's supposed to be secret because he's her competition.
yeah, yeah.
So, and again, in the book, this is a little bit more spelled out. And because Danny is more of a contender in the book, the fact that he is still talking to Lucy and Lucy's still actively reaching out to him is a little
It's a
rough
bigger
for
deal.
Josh to swallow.
Yeah, it's a much bigger deal. And so eventually they kind of work through this whole moment, and the tension finally breaks between these two, and we get a good spicy scene in here, which is really,
Mm-hmm.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it. And it's the only main like big spicy scene in here, and it's not like super crazy. It's pretty mild. I think it's a good like introductory to a spicy romance, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
So pretty mild on the spicy scene here. I won't go into too many details because you just have to read it for yourself. And then the next day, Lucy and Josh have to have like breakfast with his family before they leave or something like that. And she has a moment with Josh's dad, because Josh's dad is just making all these. And in the book or in the movie, they actually do this during the wedding. This is like happening during the wedding, but in the book, this is happening during like the next day at like breakfast or something, where she goes off on Josh's dad because he is having all these like small little comments, basically belittling Joshua and his job. And
Mm-hmm.
she's just like, you don't know like the things that he does, and like every people are afraid of him because he's just so like meticulous in the things that he does for his job. Like, this company wouldn't be running if it wasn't for the things that he does,
And if you took
regardless
a
of,
moment to get to know your son at all, you would
yeah,
know that.
yeah,
Like, basically calls him out for being a shit
yeah,
dad and not knowing jack about the publishing
yeah.
industry.
And it made me like so emotional because, especially like whenever his dad like has this moment where he like stands up and does this speech for his other son, talking about how great his other son is, and like basically acting like he only has one son.
Yep.
And like he's like, and the only woman like I can imagine you with is like with Mindy and things like that. And I'm just like, this is horrible. Like, this
Yep.
is terrible.
He's just a shit dad.
Yeah, it was bad.
But this whole Lucy speech is another reason why this book was just like, people don't do that. Like, that would never happen in real life.
I liked it though.
I
Mhm.
liked it. I enjoyed it. But there was another part that just left me empty because people should be doing that in real life. People should be standing up for each other in real life and not letting other people just walk all over each other. But they don't. And it's really sad.
Yeah. So in the book, it wraps up with a lot of reveals. Like, she asks what the marks are in the planner, and he's like, all the times, like, he has all like the X's and the D and all that stuff. And she's like, he says, those marks are the times you wore a dress or the times I wanted to kiss you. And which is like super sweet. We also have like similar reveals in the movie, but I love this part and how it's done. And I want to say, I watched this movie with my parents and my sister, because my sister had never seen it before. And we always love watching movies together. And my dad was watching this with me. And
Oh,
he is an emotional guy when it comes to movies. And this man cried at this scene. He's going to kill me for saying this.
Aww.
aw.
He cried at whenever Joshua put her in front of the mirror and had in the movie,
Aw.
put her in front of the mirror and said, like, what do you see? And she's like, well, I just see like myself, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, what do you see? And she's like, oh, my dress like matches the walls. And he's like, yeah, the dress that matches your eyes. And she realizes that he painted the walls to match her eyes. And my dad, look over my dad, he's crying. And then whenever they're like playing the game of like introducing each other again, like pretending to introduce each other again. And he's like, I'm going to call you Shortcake, and it's going to be a dead giveaway that I love you. Joshua says that to Lucy. And I look over again, my dad's crying again.
Aww.
He's going to kill me for saying this, but I don't care. He always he loves a rom-com. Like, we have a family book club. If you see my personal Instagram, reading salt, we always post on my story our family book club picks, and if you notice, his ratings on a rom-com are always like a 4 or 5 star. He loves a rom-com.
I
And he'll read
swear.
a spicy rom-com, he don't care.
I swear, I need
But
to come hang out with you guys and legit just hang out with your parents. I feel like we would just be besties. Like, I'm probably closer in age to them than I am you guys. Oh my gosh.
no.
Watch
So
me be best friends with your parents. You guys can, like, we'll start our
that would
own
be hilarious.
podcast. Like,
That would be
forget
hilarious.
y'all. Like,
That would be so funny. So after that, so that's kind of like how it almost wraps up in the
like, yeah.
book.
In the book, everything kind of ties up in a bow. Like,
Yeah.
Josh announces that, like, he's leaving the company. The promotion is hers. She's like, what? And he was like, yeah, the day off that I took, I went on my interview and I got the job.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my gosh, so we don't have to compete. And he was like, no, but there is a non-compete clause, so we can't talk about work. And she was like, okay. And like everything just kind of like nice, neat little package right there in his
Yeah.
bedroom.
Yeah. So, but in the movie, they bring in this random third act conflict. And where she overhears, like, kind of, this was brought in before in the book, but she overhears in this moment Bexley and Josh talking before, like how it was before, where he's like, I'll have no problem beating her. And it creates this big misunderstanding. And it's like, he says other like crude things, Bexley does.
Actually says some crude things about her, and Josh
Yeah.
doesn't really correct him.
Yeah, he doesn't. He just like kind of like doesn't say anything about it. And it's eventually revealed during that time. It's like, it's really quick. Like, and also after he says like that whole, like, all these things, like, I'm gonna call you Shortcake, it's a dead giveaway that I love you, and like they all both say I love you. After that, this misunderstanding happens, and then she goes running to Danny to talk to him about everything in the
Yep.
movie. And Joshua sees her with Danny, and she's like, acts all like rude to him and all this stuff. Like, they weren't telling each other that they loved each other. Like, just have a conversation.
Yeah.
It was so awkward.
I hated that so much. And you could just see, like, he was so broken by it.
He was so broken.
It was horrible. It hurt my heart.
She was broken to hear what he said.
100%.
And so it was just like, yeah.
And then she kind of says the words that Bexley said. And Joshua realizes that she overheard the conversation.
And that she
And then,
misunderstood what was being said.
So then she has the interview, and later she finds out, the ending of it is that Joshua got a new job and she got the position at
And she's all like, "Oh
Bexley and
my gosh,
Gammon.
that's what you meant when you were in his office, Bexley's office."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, but I was sworn to secrecy. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't tell you." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And they make out in front of everyone.
In front of all the employees. I was like, okay, that was unnecessary, but
It was different. It was a choice.
In the book, I loved it. Before they left for the wedding, they were at the office and they were leaving from the office to go to the wedding. And
everybody kind of knows.
Everybody already knows because Josh has already turned in his notice. Everybody knows he's quitting, and his one goal is to make Lucy fall in love with him with the time he has left at the company. And as they're leaving the office, he's carrying her coat and her bag and stuff, and her boss is watching them leave together, and she's like freaking out. She's like, "They're gonna see us," and everybody already knows there's like a timer. He's gonna make her fall in love.
Yeah, and it was like whenever he's like having a meeting in the book with like all the people and stuff, and HR goes in there and she's like, "What's going on in there?" And HR comes out and she's like laughing, looking at Lucy, and she's just like can't believe it or something like that. And that's like, I think that's also like part of the moment that he's like having that conversation, and it's super funny. But yeah, that wraps it up basically of the breakdown between the book and the movie. So, final verdict, which one did you guys like better, book or movie?
Definitely like the book better.
Definitely like the book better, but I would say the movie's worth watching.
Yeah. I thought the movie was pretty good considering. I mean, I think it was a great adaptation of the book. I definitely think the book is worth the read, as in like you'll get a lot of extra bits, a lot of extra funny parts.
It's a bingeable read too. It's not It's not one of those. It's not a Sarah J. Maas 3-month investment in finishing a series. It's a one-off, and it's really good.
Sarah J. Maas is so fresh in our minds because we're actively reading Sarah J. Maas books.
Where everybody is, because there's so many and they're so freaking long. So,
Yep. So now, since we talked about a lot about tropes in this episode, for our question today, which is a little different than our usual, I want each of us to recommend a romance book or movie, but convince each other and our listeners to check it out by only giving away the tropes. For example, if I were to recommend The Hating Game, I would try to convince other people to read it by saying it has hate to love, secret pining, forced proximity, workplace romance, caretaking, and a web bed trope. So, who wants to go first?
I will.
Anyone? Okay, go.
I will. I have a couple, but I think I'm gonna go with The Thornbirds by Colleen McCullough. There's also a television miniseries that you can find. I think you have to pay for it on Amazon Prime. I don't think it's streaming that I know of anywhere, but it's worth watching. But it's definitely worth reading. It's an incredibly long book. Sarah J. Maas levels of long, but generational. The tropes are forbidden love, age gap, clingy, jealous woman, evil matriarch, if I can't have you, nobody will, rags to riches, broken vows, not marriage vows, just vows, hot for preacher, damsel in distress, secret baby, and can't confess.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness. I bet
It's
it
a
is
good
long.
one.
Goodness.
It's a very long book. It's very, 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 very freaking long.
Interesting. Okay, Lindsay, you go.
So I went in a little bit of a different direction. I chose a webtoon comic called Midnight Poppyland by Lilydusk. And its tropes include mafia romance, forced proximity,
sold,
bad boy, Opposites Attract, and Grump and Sunshine.
Where's my pen?
I was gonna say Midnight Poppyland. Is that what you said?
Yeah. It's super cute.
Midnight Poppyland. Done and done.
Noted.
Okay. So mine, it's a spicy romance. Okay.
Shocking.
So mine is 1% of You by Michelle Gross. Single Parent. Dislike to Love. Forced Proximity, Neighbors.
Oh.
Tattooed Hero. Not His Baby.
Oh.
So female main character is pregnant when she meets the male main character.
Okay.
And that is all. So if you all want more recs like the ones we just did based on the tropes, check out our bonus episode that we'll be releasing soon after this one, because that's a wrap on the Hating Game. The longest rom-com episode ever. Don't forget to subscribe to us on podcast platforms like Apple or Spotify, and feel free to rate and review if you enjoyed the show. If you want to keep the conversation going, we are available on Blue Sky, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Based on a Book Podcast. You will find clips, polls, fun, bookish, and movie debates, and hints of our future episodes and monthly themes. Thank you for listening and continuing through this journey of romance with us. See you in the next chapter, Shortcake. Bye.
Bye.